evaluate those, in your class you have 4 designs, so they're going to evaluate each one of them using the principles and elements of design. And so you need to remember that in a creative design, one of the requirements for you is to organize the elements of design according to the principles of design. Second, that you conform to this show schedule which is written in accordance to the flower show, the handbook for flower show. So that's mainly the whole thing that relates, you can try to read the handbook and everything, but as long as you remember the elements and the principles, that's what, the judges will do. So if we talk about balance, then the judges will say, okay, is there a balance of forms? Is there a balance of lines? Is there a balance of colors? And when they check dominance, is there a dominance of color? So everything, that's what they do when they are judging each design. So it's very easy to forget when you are trying to put all these things together. But the main thing is not to get hung up, or I really have to find the theme so that the viewer can see what you are trying to say. But the most important thing is to create a good design and then try to conform to that theme title of your class. Okay? So with this, I have this, that it's a short thing that it was just given at a symposium and this kind of, with the new handbook, there's a lot of things that they try to simplify so that we will understand it better, but the complicated things more than. So you have to read it over, and some of them, they just made it like 2 lines, and you start thinking, what are they trying to say? So unless somebody explain it to you, it's very difficult. But this one was given at a symposium, and it's talking about the cascade design. So the description is a design with an emphasis on downward motion movement. So everything goes down. In most design, what we see is everything goes up. This goes down. So then they have the definition of cascade, a large amount of something that flows or hangs down. So that cannot tell you what they are looking for. The downward lines may be curved, straight, zigzag, interrupted, or maybe a combination of the above named lines. Downward lines can be composed of line material like branches, vines, and other plastic things that a lot of people use, not for me. And the lines create the rhythm, movement of downward motion. And the emphasis is in the downward motion. Okay, so because you are putting everything going down, you have to have a heavy container that will support the weight, because everything is going down, so it might be that weight will push it down. So a lot of these designers, that have been around the block for many years, they use all these heavy containers, so they support everything that you are putting in there. But that's something with this particular design to keep in mind. So you can use, you have seen those candlestick holders, the big tall ones. Those are perfect, to put things that we hang down. And anything that you can come up with that will give you the illusion that of going down. Everything that you put in there should go down. Now there's a little bit that you put on top to create, that illusion that you have something here and then everything starts flowing down. So it's very interesting that, the whole thing, and there are adapters that you can put on top, it doesn't matter what you are using, the main thing is that you have to be able to support the weight. I was at a flower show when they had this cascade design, and there was so much weight because remember, you have to have, everything has to be in proportion to the background. So this was 46 inches, which is what we are going to have in our flower show. So the container, because remember, they're just a little bit at the top, so the container has to be very tall. So when they put everything on top, then it got so heavy that eventually, it started falling. And actually, we knew that it had fallen because we could tell. But for the public, they couldn't tell because it was a perfect downward motion. So that's the, you know, you just never know with this, but we had another one that, it was right next to that one, that it wasn't a glass container, very tall glass container. We are looking for hiding the container that you use. What you see wrong, because each one of us see things in a different way. So with this, you see how I put this, a lot of this is done because they use those heavy containers, they use dry flowers and things, they don't need these, but I don't have a lot of the things and I don't tend to have, my place is already a mess with all this kind of stuff. But the reason why I made it high is because, remember, it's in a down, so I have to be able to stick the stuff up. So this foam breaks easily. So I put this is from one of those onions bag or avocado bags, you know, so I use this one. So even if my foam breaks, it will still be kept in place, you know, stay in place. Otherwise you have everything will be. This is just to give you an idea of how this design works. So you want to start with the one that will give you the first, that it will give you the down. So just to give you an idea from that side.
That's pretty.
So I just put this, see I clip these now, these are the kunti, the leaf. So I cut them here, you know, they were too much, and I just wanted to give a little bit of, remember what I read, vines and leaf that will give you the line. So we start with the line. And this gives me that line when I look from the side, it's already giving me that downward motion. Can you see it?
Yes.
It's not going to be perfect, but that's all right. Now, you also see with the flowers here that they're already going down. So, I mean, here see how I'm kind of stacking them up to give me that movement. Okay, so I have now, so
Well, that's pretty. That's lovely. It certainly shows a cascade.
So what I want, I bought it because I didn't have a lot of selection. I thought that these might, you know, I want to have some contrast, right? So this is a solid color, even though it has a little yellow, but it worked with these, and it gives me that contrast with the green, and it gives me some color. So I don't know how we will incorporate this here, but because they are not that long. So let me just find an area where these could go there.
What's holding the tray on top that the oasis is in?
You know, I was because let me show it, turn it around. So if I would look at it, it has that purplish color on
Right.
the edge. So it came in that package with the other, so I thought it will really work well. But if I put this here, that's the first thing that you are going to see because it's yellow. So that's the kind of thing that you have to think when you are putting this thing together.
Oh, it's a big problem.
So now up here, I just, see this is too short here. I don't want too much up here because it's supposed to be just a little bit, but still giving you the, it's like everything is growing from here down. Let's see this. south. Remember, another thing when you are doing this, your mechanics. This is not going to be completely covered, but you do not want to see anything that is there. So I will have to put a lot of this to cover, because I made it, I made the container high enough so that I'll be able to stick things out. So when you start, I need to cover all that orange stuff that I have in there. Is that when you start doing this design, you have to follow all the rules, right? So then you know the rules, and what happens is when the judges go to a flower show, you already know what you are going to be judging. So before, like ahead of time, you have to study those particular designs. So you get there, that's what is in your mind, those three designs. So it's clear in your mind what you are looking for. So then you also know how difficult it was to make that design. So that's the kind of thing that you discuss with the other judges, and then some others, they have a stronger attitudes. There are some that I have seen that we have walked into the room and, oh, that's a blue, that's a red, that's a white. Before we have said one word, and then you might wander around out with the other judge, you might think, wait a minute, you didn't even look. You are supposed to look, because once you start looking at the design, then you start seeing the flaws. When you really look, it's okay, this is what needs to be there. I think that looks
Perfect.
pretty good to have something on the side. And you know that you have to just fill out the back, but this gives me enough in the back that if you are looking from the side, you see a little bit of leaf in here, some greenery. I could just keep on going, putting more and more, but I don't want to.
Not practical.
I thought that if you have something to give you an idea.
Oh, that makes it much better. Much more practical.
You see, this is more or less the other stuff. Okay, so.
Ah,
We use-
very
See,
nice.
from the side, I can see that it's cascading down.
And the white with the background is good too.
Yeah. So, what do you see here? Is anything that is missing? Anything that you think you could improve the design or remove something?
On that
Because-
right-hand side.
Because when you are, one thing to remember, when you are creating your design, you need to stand back and look at your design and say, okay, where do I have an empty area? Do I need to put a flower here?
Right there.
Right
Where you
there.
put your hand. Right in there.
Right there, right? So
Right
you-
up.
So see this now, I'm having a line that is going up to.
But you're gonna need one on the other side.
Yeah, well,
aren't you?
I have more, but
But it's beautiful. It's well
yeah, I can
balanced.
put more in there.
That's what Patty Pringle used to do. She used to put different backgrounds behind them and then have the class vote on which background is better.
Right, so I have it black now, so you think that this is a good color for,
Yes.
now don't be afraid to tell what's wrong with it, because I have no problem with the, that's what when you are presenting a design, you are supposed to critique it, because otherwise you are going to go home and say, gee, that didn't look that good. But to me, it doesn't really matter that whether it looks good or
Oh,
not,
wow.
because I'm trying to show you the differences, and you,
No, I don't.
let's see, I'm going to have to have it here.
But I can see, but that really brings.
Oh,
Now
really
remember,
separate.
remember the light,
Yeah.
so you are not having enough light too, but
It emphasizes the light.
yeah. So I think the color worked well with the white and the black. Now I have another, this is something that a lot of the judges, and you can do this too, this is just another
Isn't it amazing what a difference it is?
alternative. This is going to be a quick thing here, because I don't have any, I didn't set it up, but just to give you an idea how you can do this. And I was going to show, let me show the joint.
Oh, wow.
Now, it's a wiggle, but it gives you the idea of what you can do.
It's fun to see.
How,
Yeah.
what do you think with that? Now, when you do these, you also have to bring that color all the way to the edge of the table.
Oh,
So if we have a black tablecloth and you want to use yellow or this color, you should also have the same piece that goes all the way to the edge, the same width as that, to the edge of the table. But that gives you a different look. So you have to, when you are creating your design, remember you have a black background. What colors will emphasize or look better or pop out, from that black background. Okay? So there you have it. I don't know if you have any questions. Is that when the judges are judging those designs, they are looking at the overall. And you say, okay, you use yellow or whatever color because that was your preference. Now the person next to you probably found colors that everything looks just so perfect. But then, they might have things that, the colors may be perfect, but the design may have flaws. So it's all in what you do. That's what they have. You have to remember the elements and principle, and you don't have to have the definitions, because just saying balance, everybody knows what that is. But the elements are the one that you have to remember. And the main ones are form, color, line, and texture. So do we have enough textures here? This is the rough texture. This is the softer. Here you have more fluffy thing. This is a smooth. So you have that contrast. So if you are only able to remember the principles of design and the elements without knowing the definition, then you just say, do I have enough contrast of these? Do I have enough dominance of these? Enough patterns, that kind of thing. The other thing is that when you read the schedule, it gives you dimensions on how much space you have. So you are not supposed to go above those dimensions. Now I brought this little box. Now, see here, we are this is about the height that you wanted for this frame here. You see this, everything looks to be in proportion, right? Especially you guys can see it better from over there. But if I have a taller background, the black one is taller than this white one. So if I put this up here, that's just about, I can't go beyond that, because then, I'd be out of my frame of reference, and the reference is given in the schedule. So when you read the class, it will tell you exactly what your dimensions are, the amount of space that you can use. And it goes for everything. So that tells you, how you have to be careful. I think it looks pretty with this one too,
I
because
do
it
too.
it gives me more height. So it's not like it's just down here, you can see it,
And
with-
it leaves the open
yeah.
more.
And remember, you can only use 3 different type of plant material, or 4 sometimes, but no more than that, because then you are
Too much.
it's just too much. So that's what I didn't want to add the other, but then is whatever color, remember, you start with your selection of what class you want to enter in that flower show, whatever the title is. Now, I think I can't even remember the title of one, for this particular one, but, so you start with the title of the theme in your class, not the flower show, but the class. Then you start, how can I come up with something that will communicate that theme for that class, for the class? So that's when you start thinking about colors and, textures and things, and then how you can put that design together. Okay, so there you have it. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you don't be afraid to mention